Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Women Making Big Sales. Today, we are going to be talking about CRM, the client management system that we all need. I'm super excited to have an expert with me, Tamara Burkett. She is the CRM expert. She has helped lots of companies selecting the best CRM for them and squeeze every penny of profitability and service out of their current CRM. I know that finding the best system for you, it's so important. For me, it's the best way to actually create a sales momentum. If you have a good system, you're able to sell faster, have bigger impact, and I can't wait to dig deeper with Tamara about this specific thing. Hello, Tamara. Welcome to our episode. Want to say hi?
Yes, I do. Hi, Melinda. Thank you for having me on today.
Yes. So first of all, before we jump into the technical aspects of systems and operations, let's talk about your background. I mean, how did you get started? Especially, I don't think you have any tech background, right?
Right. So I am not, I don't come from the field of IT. I actually come from the nonprofit sector, and I have a master's in organizational management. So I'm heavy on the relationship, heavy on the management side. And when I started my consultant agency, I started as a client retention customer loyalty strategist. And so as I grew my business and I worked with clients to co-create these amazing customer experience plans, they had issues with executing the plans. And so we needed a tool to help them execute. And I needed a tool to help me with my follow-up. And lo and behold, I started digging and doing research on different management tools. And I found CRMs. And it was interesting that it was one tool that could help, businesses in two different ways at that moment execute plans. And so I really did tumble down that rabbit hole to find everything that I could about CRMs, because it was really confusing finding the right tool. At the time, I mean, there were hundreds of CRMs in the market, and that was, 5 years ago. But today, there's over 4,000 systems. So I can truly understand how daunting of a task CRM selection is, and even implementing it. And so that's when I pivot actually from customer retention and all that, because there was such a huge challenge for pretty much any business to not only find the right CRM, but also how do you implement it? How do you really incorporate it into your daily activities and have it work for you and not just increase your workload? So that's how I pivot. That's how I started in CRM. And it's been a very interesting journey so far.
Yes, I mean, I have to say, I have spoken with so many women entrepreneurs, and selecting the best CRM system is probably the first question and the most common questions women ask me. And that's the reason when we connected on LinkedIn and I saw your profile, I got really excited. And I knew you have to come here and share your insights, your expertise with the ladies inside this community. Right. So before we talk about different systems, I think we had that private conversation about the difference between sales and marketing. And I think it's so important to really discuss the distinction, the difference between sales and marketing before we dig into the CRM system. For you, what is the difference between marketing and sales?
Sure. So when I think of marketing, I think of the ratio of one to many. So any message I write, any type of interview or talk I give, I'm talking to an audience. So there's only so much I can personalize because each person's experience is a little different. So I want to make sure I identify common pain points, common situations or scenarios that people can understand and relate to get them interested and to educate them in my expertise. So that's how I think of marketing. when I think of sales, sales is usually one-on-one. You're having a one-on-one conversation. So that is usually digging in a little deep to get to know that person. That's more personalized communication, even if it is via email. So that's what I think of sales. Now, today with the marketing funnels, it can be a little confusing for people because of how it's blended or how it's very seamless in, going from a general email campaign all the way to something a little more personalized. And it's like, what is that trigger when it's automated? It's a little different, but regardless, it's not one process. You're talking about two processes, and it's being connected very seamlessly when you do marketing automation.
Yes. So if you're listening to this and you're still a bit confused between the difference between marketing and sales, I want you to think about maybe a new neighbor that just moved to your next to you, and you wanted to invite this neighbor to maybe a barbecue party or a backyard party. And at first, you might be sending out a newsletter or letting everybody know on Facebook group and say, hey, I'm hosting this barbecue party. Want to join me? Or maybe invite this neighbor just by sending something that is not personal to them. But the moment you start having that personal conversation with this neighbor, maybe you know that this neighbor's name is Jennifer. You started having conversation with Jennifer and you tell Jennifer that, hey, I'll text you the information. The moment you know Jennifer and you're texting that information to Jennifer, it becomes sales. So all just like what you said, when it comes to one-to-many would be more marketing aspects of it. So when you're thinking about CRM, there are so many CRM systems out there. If it's a marketing CRM, they focus on sending messages, one from you to your list, your subscribers. But the CRM we're going to be talking about today, it will be the sales CRM, right?
Right. So there are several different types of CRMs. And the marketing CRM, an example would be what they call today Keep, which used to be called Infusionsoft. That is a marketing, right. That's a marketing CRM. It comes with landing pages that you can do. You can do various different workflows. It can be complicated. It can be simple. You can create these triggers and all these things. That's a true marketing CRM. And in the tech world, they call these platforms ESP platforms. So they're email type of platforms where you do a lot of the email automation. So if you see ESP, you know that's a email marketing platform that they're referring to.
Yes. So, for example, if you are getting, you're on my newsletter list, and you should be, everybody, if you want to know about sales, you should be part of my newsletter. If you're getting newsletter about the upcoming podcast or the sales training I'm doing or any sales strategy I write about, that is part of those marketing CRM. So it could be MailChimp. MailChimp is a very popular one.
Yeah.
Keep is a very popular one. But today we're talking about the sales one, especially when it comes to going after business clients. We're talking about 5-6 figure clients. We often focus on that one-on-one conversation. You reached out to them and one-on-one, or maybe you meet somebody at a networking event and you want to send messages to them. When it comes to that kind of sales CRM and really tracking those important leads that could give you 5 or 6 figure sales, what are the first questions you should ask yourself when selecting that perfect CRM?
Right. So the first thing you should do, and I say it all the time, is to think about your sales process and write down the steps. Write down what it is you do when you meet someone or a prospect interested in your services or your products. So it could be someone that you meet at a networking event. It can be someone that was referred to you, someone word of mouth, or it can even be on LinkedIn. Write down what you do to walk them from being interested to converting them to a client. That's the first thing you want to do, because that would tell you, that'll help you identify any gaps that you have or any issues with completing that step. Especially when it comes to tools. Do you have a tool to help you with booking appointments? Do you have a tool to help remind you of follow-ups? Do you have a tool to help set the task of what next to send? Do you have email templates that you can use to quickly personalize and send out? So those are the different tools or features that you need to help execute that process. And from there, you can identify the different features. Those tools could also be features in a CRM. So that's the first thing you really want to do to identify a CRM, a sales-focused CRM.
Okay. And do you have any recommendations? For example, if you're bigger, if you're a solopreneur, or if you have a small team or bigger teams, what are the things that you should be thinking about?
That's a great question. So some of the things you want to think about is really the time and the energy cost that goes into really walking a client through your sales process. How much time does it take? And what would you need to make that process smoother for you and for that prospect? So if you want something that's more of an assistant, if you say, well, I wish I had more of an assistant to remind me of some things. And for instance, instead of me having to write out tasks for each step, something to kind of just remind me of that's the next step of what I should do. I don't want to think about it. I just want something to tell me what to do. Well, then that's the type of CRM that you want. You want a CRM that acts as an assistant for you, right? So that means a lot of those small things that you would normally do manually in the system would be automatically done. You're able to do that. So that would be the first thing to look for. And how you can find those type of CRMs is to really look at the About page. When you're searching for different CRMs, look at their philosophy on business and why they created the CRM. Because if their About page talks more about relationship building, and they talk more about that piece, then more than likely it will function at the way you need it to. So that's one of the major pieces I tell people to look at. How do you want it to function? How do you want it to help you with these things?
Okay. And but for you, when it comes to CRM recommendations, do you have your top CRMs that you really want people to check out and why you like them?
Right. So oftentimes it does depend on their business stage. And like you said, the staff, the number of people they have on their team, because oftentimes CRMs, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of time for you to find the right one, but it takes just as many hours to set up, to customize, and to maintain. So it's truly a journey. And so I'll look at the team. So if you have a team, that means, team collaboration and internal communication within accounts would be very important. So that's something that you want to look for in a CRM if you have a team. For individual, again, maintenance takes time. So do you have a VA to help you maintain it? If not, if you're truly solo, so again, you want your CRM to do most of the heavy lifting for you. You want that assistant type of CRMs. And especially if you're at the beginning, if you're at the start of your business, you want something that's also super user friendly, because that's the main barrier to CRM usage, is how easy, how user friendly it is. So, and oftentimes people will find something or look for a system that has all these bells and whistles, and they get seduced by the demo, and then they buy into all this sexiness, and it's like they can only use maybe 5% because of the learning curve is so steep.
Mm-hmm.
that they don't use it for all their sales process. So really that user-friendly piece is really important. And so when I recommend systems, I like to start people off, if they've never had a CRM before, with something that's extremely simple, like Less Annoying CRM is a system that's really user-friendly. There's another system called Close, that's spelled with a Z, that is pretty user-friendly and automates a lot of those systems, like the reminders and the follow-ups and things like that. Really helps people with their sales process, and just to hit the ground running as soon as you invest in the system.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you in terms of maintenance of the CRM. A lot of women that I support, I think a lot of women that are listening to this podcast, we are solopreneurs, or maybe we have smaller teams. And at the same time, we are also busy working on different aspects of our business, and sometimes maintaining our CRM. Like for myself, sometimes I've used HubSpot, and maintaining that system becomes such a big task, and I was not able to really optimize that CRM. And so, if you're listening to this, keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. Sales is always about keeping it simple, and you can always adjust as you grow, as you thrive. And myself, I don't even, I mean, right now, and I would be happy to talk to Tamara more about my CRM. But right now, for ladies who know me, I'm using Airtable, and I'm just using simple Airtable to manage my leads. And you're right, there is not a lot of templates for follow up, and it still does require a little bit of that manual kind of typing in my template. Would you
Yeah.
recommend people to select something that kind of just work for them, but that's not entirely like a CRM software? Or do you think that people should really find one CRM software?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because when I think of people who are establishing their business, building processes is one of management, just overall business management is a huge challenge, right? Because it's mostly just you. You may have an assistant, but they're not working 40 hours with you.
No.
So it's really, how do you manage the processes you have in place? How do you organize the content and all the data that you're generating, and keep it simple where you know where things are, you know where to document things, you know what the next step in the process, all these things to eliminate distraction. And that can be really overwhelming, right, when you start. And so I always go back to, you can never go wrong with mapping out your thoughts and your process of how things go, and mapping out where things are, and visually figuring out, okay, I have a project management. So for instance, I have a sales CRM. I don't believe in all-in-one systems, because they do everything very mediocre, right? I like finding individual systems that I really like, and I get in the habit of using and integrating them together, and identifying the information that needs to flow from both of them. So I have a sales CRM. Then I have an email marketing system that's integrated with that. And then I also have a project management platform, and I use them all for different things. And I organize my information based on anything that's processed, that's related to prospecting, that's related to client retention. All that goes into my CRM. Anything that's related to marketing goes into my marketing platform. So those are the email campaigns, the funnels, all that good stuff, right? And then any task that I need to do with clients. So once I onboard my clients, the service delivery, that goes into my project management tool. Any work that I do with my team, that goes into my project management tool, as well as the work I do with clients. Any type of tasks that are assigned and things like that, that also goes into my project management. And so what I would say to your audience and to you as well, Melinda, is that you want to find a house for everything in your business as soon as possible, because as soon as you start creating workarounds, it will be hard to untangle them and find a true home for it. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you watch, I believe her name is Marie Kondo.
Yes.
Where she does this organization thing, right?
I know.
And it's, yeah, you really want to find a home for all the things in your business. Mm-hmm. That's the goal, is to find a home for everything, mm-hmm. and maintain it and keep it neat, right? And so that's the true goal that everyone strives for, and to find a tool to help house that is challenging. So if you find one tool that you like and you start finding workarounds for it, it happens, right? Just as long as you have a plan and you position yourself to say, okay, I know I need a tool for this, and this is what I want it to look like, and this is how I want it to function. So when you do find that tool, you can migrate all that information to that platform.
Okay. Well, I love the analogy with Marie Kondo's philosophy. Yes, you're right. I mean, it's so important to get it organized. And I really think, like, the moment we get it organized, get things organized, we have a process, it takes away all the emotional confusions of what we should be doing. A lot of times we want to succeed and we want to make progress. We just wish somebody could tell us exactly what we need to do. And that is what our system is for. Our system is designed to tell us, here's a reminder, like you said, here's a reminder. What you need to do is that today you should be reaching out to these clients, and the templates are there to tell you, what should you be saying? Well, here's a template to tell you what you should be saying. So, I guess that is the power of having the right CRM.
Right. And, I used to always tell people, and I still do today, is that, let technology manage your staff so you can coach people, so you can coach them, right? So all the micromanaging and things that sometimes our inner selves tell us that we need to do, it's like, let the system do that. Put that into a tool and let the technology do that for you, so then you can focus on having those relationships and really finding clarity in your business and make those business decisions to help your company grow.
That's amazing. I have another question. Actually, it came from Anne inside our Facebook group. She asked that if she's looking for a CRM that is able to manage different emails. So business emails. So I assume that she probably has different business emails. Sometimes, we have different companies, different businesses, but we want to put everything together and all the client lists together. Is there such a CRM that would be able to do that?
If there's a CRM that can manage multiple emails, it'll look different in a couple ways. One is there are systems that can sync with multiple emails, but the management, what happens on the management side is that it will pull in all of your contacts. So all of the people that have emailed you, that you've emailed them, that'll all be pulled into your database. And the downside to that is oftentimes, if you ever been emailed as a group, all those emails will go in there. Anytime you got spam, if you receive spam, the spam email will go in there. So you'll have to clean out all of those contacts out of your database, and keeping that clean and in integrity can be a challenge because it'll be ongoing. Okay. So that's one thing to think about. Also, for for one system to manage multiple emails, again, it'll look a little different. They may, in terms of duplication and things like that, it may not see the duplicated emails and things of that nature. So really, it's the back end of the management piece that you would want to consider if that's truly what you want. So when people often ask me about that, I ask them, what are the purposes of their different email accounts? And are there different services? Why do you want for them to be managed under one account? Because oftentimes it's, well, they have business contacts in various accounts, but it's not, though it doesn't make the majority of the communications of that email, right? So then I would look at, well, what if we were to integrate? How can we integrate another system or find another way to pull in that information? So for instance, Zapier is like this third-party integration platform. I'm not sure if you've heard of Zapier.
Yes.
But it's able to connect to different systems, right? Yes. And what I like about Zapier is that they're very specific in how they integrate. How does the two pull and push information between the two? Because I think that would be a key piece to think about in terms of, okay, where do you want it to go? What do you want it to do, right? How are you going to use that information? So I would strongly suggest that Anne, was it that sent the question? Think about, well, how much information do you want from each of your email accounts? Where do you want it to go? How much information or what type of information do you need from each email before you truly start looking into emails or CRMs that sync with emails? Because I have one right now that it could sync with multiple, but again, the maintenance of it is too much. Like, you know what? I need to narrow down to just one account because it's just too much to do.
I mean, keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. A lot of us, we're solopreneur. We have small businesses. I know that we all have a lot of different ideas how we want to structure our business. But whenever I implement something, I always ask myself, what is that process? Just like what you mentioned, what is the process behind it? And how can I keep it as simple as possible? Remember, when you're selecting a CRM, not only you have to select that CRM, you have to live with it for a while. You have to maintain it. You have to take good care of it. And you want to make sure that it is something you feel comfortable. You can do it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And, in that instance, there are sometimes you can allow people, you can set up your CRM so that people can self-select the things that they like and the things that they want. So you don't have to have your system necessarily pull that information in for you. So that could be an option, whereas they just click a button and boom, they're in your system. So you have options if you have multiple accounts or places where you have information spread out. There are a lot of different ways that you can bring that information together where it'll be simple for you to manage.
Okay, awesome. Now we've talked about CRM, and I always, at the end of this conversation, I always like to ask my guests, we want to know, what is your best sales tip? What is that sales tip or strategy from Tamara when it comes to selling to business clients? What has worked for you? What can you share with our audience?
Right. So something that works really well for me in terms of getting referrals and just connecting with people has been my introduction process, how I introduce people and how I ask for introductions. Oftentimes, when I first started my business and people talked about kind of like that networking of connecting people and things like that, I went about it in a very mediocre way because I wanted something from it of, okay, I'm going to introduce you just so I can get the clout, but it's not going to be very meaningful. Whatever happens, happens, not on me. But when I started to be very intentional with how I gave introductions and then how I asked for introductions, it really paid off in a huge way. And oftentimes that's how I get clients, is through an introduction or through a referral, because I gave a really thoughtful introduction, and it just opened up so many opportunities to speak and all these things in my world. So having a really intentional introduction process is, you can never go wrong with it. It's beneficial and oftentimes overlooked.
Could you clarify on, or what you meant by intentional introduction process?
Sure. Yeah. So, when I meet people that I like, and I've had a conversation with them, I envision the person I want to introduce them to based on what their needs are and their challenges, and also their personality. So I'm really looking for a specific person that I introduce them to. And when I do give them an introduction, and it's a virtual introduction, I have a formula for how I lay out that introduction email. I introduce them to each other, tell them what they do, why I'm introducing them, what I would like for them to do, or how I like them to connect, and just have some excitement to that tone, so they do connect. And when they do connect, they are excited. And once they are excited, I know 9 times out of 10 that either they exchange very great value, or they'll work together in the near future, whether it's a collaboration or they're guesting on each other's podcast, but something always comes out of that introduction. And because of that, they'll remember me. I'm top of mind. So every time I connect with them, then they're excited to respond to me, and they're always willing to do whatever they can to support me in my business. And that always leads to some type of opportunity, and I land a client from it. So
I can tell the moment you talk about your intentional process, your eyes lit up. You're so passionate about it. You got this big smile. It's something that you really care about, and you take a lot of pride into this specific process. And I'm happy it's getting a lot of results from you. I think what I got from that experience is, a lot of times we think of different sales strategy and we kind of just want to copy it, but it's the intention behind it. It's the care we take. A lot of time we go to networking event and we're telling ourselves, this is not going anywhere. I don't know what I'm doing. Stay present, focus on the person in front of you. Let's not think about sales for a second. You never know when opportunities can arise, but stay present and continue to focus on taking action. Like the way you talk about how to introduce or make that business introductions, it's amazing. We do business introductions all the time, especially virtually, being on LinkedIn all the time. But I could tell that you're putting so much intention and relationship building into it. And I think a lot of times you talk about relationship building and the CRM. So super excited about that. And so for anybody after listening to this podcast, reach out to you, of course. But I always like to also ask about 3 in 3 action plans they should do in 3 days. What would you recommend them doing in 3 days, 3 simple steps to kind of make progress and in selecting the best CRM?
Absolutely. So the first thing, and this is the 3rd time I repeat, so I hope you all do it, is to map out your process, map out your sales process. Start with how you qualify people. Map that out. So that's the first thing I would encourage people to do. The next step would be to find the gaps. When you map out your process and visualize what you do, identify what gaps, what's missing, what can you improve on, right? So look at that. Where are the gaps? And then from there, think about what would it take to solve that problem. If you had this great tool, what could it do for you to support those gaps? And once you do that, then you are ready to start looking at CRMs, because now you understand how you need a system to function for you.
And of course, reach out to you if they need any help and any support.
Yes, absolutely. I would be more than happy to help you, guide you through that process. I actually have a quiz to help people get a little more clarity around what their gaps may be, where are some areas that they could improve on, to really just meet their sales goals, or go beyond it. So I really encourage people to take the quiz. It's maybe a couple of minutes, and it'll definitely give you more insight into your process.
Definitely. I'll make sure to include that that link to the quiz so that you can take that quiz and try to figure out the best CRM for you. And in terms of sales process, if anybody wants to figure out their sales process, we also have our sales success plan. It is a 5-step process for you to land business clients. So I'll make sure to include that resource for you as well. Well, Tamara, thank you so much for being part of this, for being here and sharing all your tips. Like you said, I have to remind myself, I want to remind everybody, map out your process, map out your process. And once you have that process mapped out, then you can start getting unstuck and try to figure out where you're stuck and how to get unstuck one step at a time. So thank you very
Yeah.
much for sharing, for being here, and look forward to maybe speaking with you next time.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Great. Thank you.